Fleet Admiral Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the combined human and galactic fleets approach the galactic core where the source of the Void Devourers had finally been located. 6 months of fighting had led to this moment, and she could feel the weight of billions of lives depending on what happened in the next few hours. Beside her, Queen Lyralai of the Etherians studied the tactical displays with the same intensity. The beautiful alien woman had changed during the months of war, becoming harder and more focused, but she had never lost the compassion that made her fight so desperately to save her people. "The energy readings are off the charts," reported Dr. Amy Chen from her science station. Amy had become the leading expert on Void Devourer technology, and her understanding of their weaknesses had made the difference in dozens of battles. "Whatever is at the galactic core, it's been active for thousands of years. Maybe longer." General Rebecca Stone coordinated the overall battle plan from her command ship, her voice reaching every vessel in the massive fleet. "All units, remember the plan. The humans go in first to establish a beachhead in the hostile environment. Once we've neutralized the defensive systems, the galactic fleets move in to support." Lisa looked at the readings from their target and felt a familiar chill. The galactic core was surrounded by an energy field that would kill most known species instantly, crushing gravity, lethal radiation, and exotic energy effects that could tear apart molecular bonds. But human ships had been modified with Etherian technology, and human crews had trained for months to operate in impossible conditions. "Admiral," called Commander Zara Volkov from her position at Tactical, "we're detecting movement from the core. Something big is coming out to meet us." The main screen filled with an image that defied comprehension. A structure the size of a small moon, made of the same dark energy as the Void Devourers, was emerging from the galactic core. But this wasn't a creature. It was clearly artificial, some kind of ancient weapon or device. "My God," whispered Queen Lyralai. "What is that thing?" Amy worked frantically at her station, analyzing the incoming data. "It's a harvester. An artificial intelligence designed to collect and convert life energy on a galactic scale. Lisa, this thing has been dormant for millions of years, but the recent expansion of galactic civilization triggered its activation." Lisa felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. "It's not trying to destroy the galaxy, it's trying to harvest it. The Void Devourers are just its collection system." The ancient harvester began launching waves of Void Devourers toward the approaching fleet, but these were larger and more sophisticated than anything they had faced before. Lisa watched as several Etherian ships were consumed instantly, their crews dying before they could even register the attack. "All human ships advance to combat range," Lisa ordered. "Everyone else, fall back to support positions. We're going into the grinder." The 12 human ships accelerated toward the harvester, their crews sealed into their combat stations and their environmental systems pushed to maximum capacity. As they entered the hostile energy field surrounding the ancient device, Lisa felt the familiar sensation of Earth's gravity trying to crush her while radiation counters screamed warnings that would have sent any sane person fleeing. But humans weren't sane by galactic standards, and Lisa's crews had trained for this exact situation. "Zara, can you get us close enough to plant the device?" Lisa asked. Zara studied the tactical situation with professional calm. "I can get us to the target zone, but we'll have to go through the main defense grid. It's going to be rough." The next few minutes were a nightmare of violence and impossible physics. Human ships punched through defensive fields that should have vaporized them, their crews functioning efficiently while being subjected to forces that would have killed most galactic species. Etherian technology kept their ships intact, while human determination kept their crews fighting. "Admiral, we're in range," Zara reported. "But the energy field around the core is too strong. Our people won't survive a direct approach." Lisa looked at the readings and realized what had to be done. "Zara, can you get me to the surface in an assault shuttle?" "Lisa, that's suicide," Queen Lyralai protested over the communication channel. "The energy levels will kill you before you can plant the device." Lisa was already moving toward the shuttle bay. "Your Majesty, humans have a tradition of finishing what we start, and someone needs to shut down that harvester manually." The assault shuttle launched from Lisa's flagship and dove toward the ancient device, carrying the fusion bomb that Dr. Chen had modified with Etherian quantum technology. The theory was simple. If they could disrupt the Harvester's power core, the entire system would collapse, and the Void Devourers would become inert. As Lisa approached the surface of the Harvester, her shuttle systems began failing one by one. The radiation was cooking her electronics, the gravity was crushing her hull, and the exotic energy effects were doing things to local physics that made navigation nearly impossible. But Lisa had trained for impossible conditions her entire career, and she guided the dying shuttle to a hard landing near the Harvester's central power core. "Admiral Martinez," came Queen Lirale's desperate voice over the failing communication system. "Your life signs are critical. You need to abort." Lisa struggled out of the wrecked shuttle, dragging the fusion device behind her. The environment around the Harvester was so hostile that her environmental suit was already showing failure warnings. But she only needed a few more minutes. "Your Majesty," Lisa said, placing the device against the power core and beginning the activation sequence. "Tell your people that Earth is honored to have fought beside them." The device activated with a flash of light that could be seen from the edge of the star system. The ancient Harvester's power core destabilized, sending cascading failures throughout its massive structure. Across the galaxy, every Void Devourer simply stopped moving, their dark energy forms dissipating like smoke. But Lisa Martinez was already gone, her life consumed by the same hostile environment that had claimed so many others. 3 months later, Earth received formal recognition as a founding member of the reformed Galactic Council. Human military academies were established on dozens of worlds, teaching other species how to fight in hostile environments and overcome impossible odds. Etherian technology helped humanity spread peacefully throughout the galaxy, while human courage protected the more peaceful civilizations from future threats. At the memorial ceremony for Admiral Lisa Martinez, Queen Lirale spoke to representatives of 1,000 worlds. The galaxy learned something important from the humans. Sometimes the universe needs guardians who are willing to walk into hell itself to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We called for help, and the Deathworlders answered. They saved us all, and we will never forget. In Earth's halls of power, a new doctrine was written into human military philosophy. The strong protect the weak, no matter the cost, and no call for help goes unanswered. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or explorers, but as the guardians who stood watch against the darkness. And in the deep monitoring stations that still listened to the void between stars, human operators continued their eternal vigil, ready to answer the next distress call from civilizations they had never met, but would die to protect. Sergeant Nina Rodriguez crouched behind a wall of twisted metal and crystal, checking her weapon for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. Around her, the ruins of what had once been a beautiful Etherian city stretched in all directions, now transformed into a nightmarish landscape of toxic fog and shifting gravity fields. The Void Devourers had turned this place into exactly the kind of environment that would kill most galactic species within minutes. For Nina and her squad, it was just another day at the office. "Rodriguez, status report," came Major Kelly Thompson's voice through her helmet communicator. Kelly was coordinating the entire ground operation from her command post 3 kilometers away, somehow maintaining perfect tactical awareness despite the electromagnetic interference that had disabled most Etherian technology. "We're in position." "Major?" Nina replied, watching her squad of mixed human and Etherian soldiers prepare for the assault on the Void Devourer nest ahead. "The environmental conditions are as advertised. Radiation at 4 times human lethal dose, gravity fluctuating between 1.8 and 3.2 standard, and atmospheric toxicity that would dissolve Etherian lung tissue in seconds." She paused, checking her readings again. "My people are green across the board. Combat effectiveness at 90%. Nina looked over at Technician Aria Starweaver, a young Etherian engineer who was providing technical support for the mission. Aria wore a massive environmental suit that made her look like a walking tank, but even with all that protection, she could only operate in this environment for a few hours before her systems would fail. "Aria, how are you holding up?" Nina asked, through the local communication net. The Etherian's voice came back strained but determined. "The suit systems are functioning, Sergeant Rodriguez. I can maintain technical support for another 2 hours before I need to withdraw to a safe zone." Nina nodded, impressed by the young alien's courage. Arya had volunteered for this mission knowing it might kill her because the intelligence data she could provide was crucial for understanding Void Devourer technology. Nina had served with many brave human soldiers, but she was learning that courage wasn't unique to her species. "All right, people," Nina said to her squad. "Remember the briefing. These Void Devourers create hostile environments because they evolved in them. They expect their enemies to die from environmental exposure before they have to fight directly. They're not used to dealing with anything that can survive their home conditions and still fight effectively." Private Emma Davis checked her heavy assault rifle, a weapon that fired depleted uranium rounds at tremendous velocity. "Sergeant, are we sure our weapons will work? The Ethereans said their energy weapons just passed through these things like they weren't there." Nina smiled grimly. "Davis, energy weapons are complicated. They rely on specific frequencies, field harmonics, and quantum effects that can be disrupted. But there's nothing complicated about a chunk of dense metal traveling fast enough to punch holes in anything it hits." She activated her helmet's tactical display, which showed the layout of the Void Devourer nest they were about to assault. The creatures had built their hive inside what had once been a beautiful crystal cathedral, but now the entire structure pulsed with dark energy that seemed to eat light itself. "Arya, can you scan the interior structure?" Nina asked. The Etherean technician activated her advanced sensor systems, carefully modified to function in the hostile environment. "Sergeant, I'm detecting 17 individual Void Devourers inside the main chamber. They seem to be feeding on something. The energy readings are consistent with matter conversion." Nina felt her jaw tighten. They were too late to save whoever was being consumed, but they could prevent the same fate from befalling others. "Thompson, this is Rodriguez. We have confirmation of 17 hostiles. Requesting permission to proceed with assault." "Permission granted, Rodriguez," came Kelly's immediate reply. "Remember, the objective is to plant the experimental device that Dr. Chen designed. If her theory is correct, it should disrupt their feeding process and force them to retreat." Nina looked at the device attached to her belt, a simple fusion bomb modified with Etherean technology. Dr. Amy Chen had theorized that the Void Devourers were vulnerable to specific energy frequencies, but only when they were actively feeding. It was an untested theory that they were about to bet their lives on. "Move out," Nina ordered, and her squad advanced into the nest. The interior of the cathedral was like stepping into a nightmare. The beautiful crystal walls had been corrupted into something that hurt to look at directly, and the air itself seemed to whisper with voices of the consumed. Gravity shifted randomly, making every step treacherous, while radiation levels spiked to levels that would have been instantly lethal to unprotected humans. But Nina's squad moved through it all with practiced efficiency, their environmental suits protecting them from the worst effects, while their enhanced human physiology handled the rest. They had trained for operations in contaminated zones, high radiation environments, and variable gravity fields. This was just a combination of challenges they had faced before. "Contact," whispered Corporal Janet Wright from the point position. "I can see them." Nina moved up to see what Janet was looking at and felt her stomach turn. The Void Devourers were gathered around what had once been a group of Etherean civilians, slowly draining the life force from their victims. The creatures themselves were difficult to look at directly. Writhing shadows that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. "Arya, are you getting this?" Nina asked. "Recording everything, Sergeant," came the reply. "The energy patterns are exactly what Dr. Chen predicted. They're vulnerable while feeding, but only for a few seconds at a time." Nina studied the tactical situation, then made her decision. "Wright Davis, set up covering positions. When I give the signal, put everything you have into the largest one. I'll use the distraction to place the device." The plan was simple, direct, and extremely dangerous. Exactly the kind of operation that humans excelled at, and that more civilized species would never attempt. "Execute," Nina ordered. The cathedral erupted in violence as her squad opened fire with everything they had. Depleted uranium rounds and chemical explosives tore through the air, striking the feeding Void Devourers with devastating effect. The creatures recoiled in obvious pain and confusion, not used to being attacked by beings that could survive in their hostile environment. Nina sprinted through the chaos, dodging writhing tentacles of shadow while fighting gravity that tried to crush her into the floor. She reached the center of the chamber and activated Dr. Chen's device, then dove for cover as the experimental weapon began to charge. The device detonated with a flash of light that somehow seemed brighter than anything that had touched this place in months. The Void Devourers screamed with voices that bypassed the ears and struck directly at the soul, then began to retreat, flowing out of the cathedral like smoke before wind. "Target neutralized," Nina reported, helping her squad regroup. "The nest is clear." As they made their way back to the extraction point, Arya Starweaver struggled to keep up in her bulky environmental suit. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I have to ask, how do your people function so effectively in conditions that would kill most galactic species?" Nina thought about how to explain a lifetime of growing up on a world that tried to kill its inhabitants every day. "Arya, humans have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Our planet spent millions of years trying to kill us, and we got stronger instead." She looked back at the corrupted cathedral, now clean of the shadow that had infested it. "Sometimes the galaxy needs monsters to fight monsters. The difference is we choose who we're monstrous to." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Etherian home system, and Captain Lisa Martinez felt her breath catch at what she saw through the main view screen. 3 beautiful worlds orbited a golden star, their surfaces covered in cities that looked like they were made of living crystal and pure light. But even from this distance, she could see the dark shadows moving between the planets like hungry storms. "My God," whispered Commander Zara Volkov from her position at the tactical station. Zara commanded the Marine forces aboard Lisa's ship, and she had seen every kind of battlefield that Earth could offer. But this was something beyond human experience. The largest of the 3 worlds was half covered in writhing darkness that seemed to eat the light itself. As they watched, another section of the crystal cities simply vanished, consumed by the advancing shadow. Lisa could see streams of refugee ships fleeing from the planet's surface, tiny lights escaping into space like sparks from a dying fire. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," reported the communications officer. "It's in one of the alien languages Dr. Chen taught us to recognize." Lisa nodded. "Put it through the translation system and open a channel." The main screen flickered and suddenly showed the interior of what must be an alien ship. The being looking back at them was the most beautiful creature Lisa had ever seen. Tall and graceful, with pointed ears and skin that seemed to glow with soft silver light. She wore robes that shifted color like aurora. But her large eyes held an expression of desperate hope mixed with disbelief. "I am Princess Lyra Lai of the Etherian Royal House," the alien woman said, her voice carrying musical tones that the translation system couldn't quite capture. "You are the beings from the small world that answered our call?" Lisa stepped forward, very aware that this moment would be remembered in history books forever. "I am Captain Lisa Martinez of the Earth vessel Terra's Hope. We received your distress signal and came to help." Princess Lyra Lai's eyes widened with something between amazement and confusion. "Captain Martinez, our long-range sensors show you have only 12 ships. The Void Devourers have consumed the fleets of 100 worlds. How can such a small force hope to make a difference?" Before Lisa could answer, Zara stepped into view of the screen. Where Princess Lyra Lai was tall and ethereal, Zara was compact and clearly built for violence. Her combat armor bore scars from a dozen different battlefields, and her eyes held the hard certainty of someone who had never lost a fight that mattered. "Your Highness," Zara said with blunt military courtesy, "we didn't come here to match numbers with your enemy. We came here to win." The simple confidence in Zara's voice seemed to surprise the Etherian princess. Lisa could see her studying, the human woman with new interest, as if trying to understand what kind of beings would travel across the galaxy to fight a hopeless war for strangers. "Princess," Lisa said, "we need to understand what we're fighting. Can you show us the Void Devourers up close?" Lyra Lai's expression darkened. "Captain, no ship has ever approached a Void Devourer and returned. They consume everything, matter, energy, even light itself. Our most powerful weapons pass through them as if they were shadows." "Then we'll have to try something different," Lisa said. "Can you transmit technical data about their capabilities and the environments they create?" Within minutes, Lisa's ship was receiving detailed sensor readings from the Etherian fleet. Dr. Amy Chen, who had traveled with the expedition as their xenolinguist, worked frantically to process the data. What she found confirmed everything Dr. Maya Patel had predicted back on Earth. "Lisa, look at this," Amy said, calling up environmental readings on her workstation. "The Void Devourers don't just consume matter, they create zones of extreme hostility around themselves. Radiation levels that would kill most galactic species instantly, gravitational fields that would crush their ships, toxic energy discharges that would disable their technology." Zara studied the readings with professional interest. These environmental conditions would be challenging for human operations, but not impossible. "We've trained in worse." Princess Lyreley had been listening to their conversation through the open communication channel, and Lisa could see growing amazement on her face. "Captain Martinez, are you saying your species can function in those conditions?" "Your Highness," Lisa replied, "my species evolved on a world that most galactic civilizations would classify as a death world. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, extreme weather, and constant geological instability. What kills your people might just slow us down." The conversation was interrupted by urgent alarms on both ships. A Void Devourer scout force had detected the human fleet and was moving to investigate. Princess Lyreley's ship immediately began evasive maneuvers while her crew prepared to retreat to a safer distance. But the human ships did something that shocked every Etherian watching. They advanced toward the enemy. "Captain Martinez, what are you doing?" Princess Lyreley called out in alarm. "You cannot engage them directly. No one has ever survived close contact with a Void Devourer." Lisa was already strapping herself into her command chair as the ship moved into combat configuration. "Your Highness, you're about to see why Earth is considered a death world." The Void Devourers approached like living shadows, their forms constantly shifting and writhing. As they drew closer, Lisa's ship began registering the hostile environmental effects that the aliens had warned about. Radiation levels spiked, gravity fluctuated wildly, and strange energy discharges played across the hull. "Environmental systems are holding," reported the engineering officer. "Radiation shielding is effective, and artificial gravity is compensating for external fields." Zara activated the ship's weapon systems, and Lisa felt a moment of uncertainty. Human weapons were crude compared to alien technology. Simple projectile launchers, chemical explosives, and nuclear warheads. But as the first salvo struck the leading Void Devourer, something amazing happened. The creature recoiled. "Direct hit," Zara reported with satisfaction. "Whatever these things are, they don't like having chunks of dense metal traveling at several kilometers per second punched through their bodies." Princess Lyreley watched in amazement as the human ships tore into the Void Devourer formation with brutal efficiency. Their weapons were primitive, but they worked. More importantly, the humans fought with a combination of tactical sophistication and absolute ruthlessness that no galactic species had ever displayed. "Incredible," Lyreley whispered, watching as Commander Zara coordinated the battle with calm precision, while Lisa maneuvered their ship through gravitational fields that would have crushed an Etherian vessel. "They fight as if they have no fear." As the last of the Void Devourer scouts was destroyed, Lisa opened a communication channel to the Etherian princess. "Your Highness, I think we need to talk about combining our capabilities. You have technology we can use, and we have something you need." "What is that, Captain Martinez?" Lisa smiled grimly. "Experience with impossible odds, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to win." Princess Lyreley looked at the debris field, where the supposedly invincible Void Devourers had been destroyed by primitive human weapons, and for the first time in months she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's capital, surrounded by holographic displays showing military readiness reports from around the globe. The alien distress call had been confirmed, analyzed, and debated for 3 days now. Every government on Earth had been briefed, and the decision was unanimous. Humanity would respond to the call for help. But Rebecca knew something that the politicians and the public did not understand yet. She knew exactly what humans were, and why that might be the galaxy's only hope. Dr. Maya Patel entered the war room carrying a thick folder of research data. Maya had spent years studying human evolution and biology, focusing on the traits that made her species unique among Earth's life forms. Her work had always been theoretical before, but now it might determine the fate of civilizations they had never met. "Show me what makes us different," Rebecca said without looking away from the tactical displays. Maya activated her portable hologram projector, and suddenly the room filled with images of human anatomy, genetic sequences, and evolutionary charts. "Admiral, most people think humans are weak compared to other Earth animals. We're not the strongest, fastest, or most heavily armed, but that's missing the point entirely." The display changed to show a comparison between humans and various Earth predators. "We're persistence hunters, Rebecca. We evolved to chase our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Our cardiovascular system, our cooling mechanisms, our joint structure, everything about us is designed for endurance under stress." Rebecca nodded, having heard parts of this before, but Maya was just getting started. "But that's only the beginning," Maya continued, pulling up brain scans and neurological data. "Human stress response is completely different from most mammals. When other animals face extreme danger, they either fight briefly or run. We do something much stranger. We think." Lieutenant Colonel Grace Williams entered the room just as Maya was explaining human neurochemistry. Grace commanded Earth's most elite Special Forces unit, and she had personally tested every limit of human capability in the most dangerous environments on the planet. "Grace, perfect timing," Rebecca said. "Maya is explaining why we might actually be useful in a galactic war." Grace studied the brain scans on the display with professional interest. "Are you talking about combat effectiveness or survival capability?" Maya smiled grimly. "Both. Grace, you've operated in environments that would kill most Earth animals within minutes. Toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, crushing pressure, radiation levels that would be lethal to most life forms. You do it not just by surviving, but by maintaining tactical effectiveness." The display changed to show footage of Grace's unit operating in various hostile environments: underwater facilities, volcanic regions, Arctic wastelands, and radiation-contaminated zones. In each case, the human soldiers not only survived, but completed complex military objectives. "The alien transmissions include environmental data from their worlds," Maya explained. "Admiral, these Galactic Council species evolved on what we would consider paradise worlds. Standard gravity is about 60% of Earth normal. Their atmospheres are pure and clean. Their temperatures are stable and mild." Rebecca began to understand where this was leading. "You're saying they're soft?" "Compared to us, yes," Maya confirmed. "But more importantly, these void devourers seem to attack by creating hostile environments. High radiation, toxic gases, extreme gravitational fields. The aliens can't fight effectively under those conditions, but we can." Grace pulled up her own data files, showing combat effectiveness studies. "There's something else, Admiral. Women show specific advantages in high-stress command situations. Our cognitive processing actually improves under moderate stress levels, and our multitasking capabilities are enhanced when we're protecting others." Maya nodded enthusiastically. "Grace is right. Human maternal instincts combined with our species, pack hunting heritage creates a unique psychological profile. We become more effective fighters when we're defending others, especially when we're defending the vulnerable." Rebecca studied the data with growing understanding. Earth's harsh conditions hadn't just made humans tough, they had made them into something that might be uniquely suited for this particular war. "What about our technology?" Rebecca asked. "The aliens have energy weapons, faster-than-light travel, artificial intelligence systems we can barely understand. We're still using chemical explosives and metal projectiles." Maya grinned. "Admiral, have you ever tried to hack a mechanical clock with a computer virus?" The question seemed absurd until Rebecca thought about it. "You can't. It's too simple." "Exactly. Our weapons are crude, but they're also extremely reliable and hard to counter. You can't jam a bullet or disable a chemical explosive with an electromagnetic pulse. And our tactics." Maya pulled up historical battle analyses. "We fight in ways that more civilized species would never think of." Grace nodded agreement. "Human military doctrine is based on controlled violence and acceptable losses. We routinely plan operations that other species would consider suicidal. We accept casualties that would break the morale of most civilizations. Rebecca walked over to the display showing the alien transmission images. The beautiful Etherian faces looked so peaceful, so civilized. They probably had never experienced war the way humans understood it. "There's one more thing," Maya said, quietly. "I've been analyzing the psychological profiles of our best female commanders and soldiers. Women like you, Rebecca, and Grace, and Captain Martinez at the monitoring station. There's a pattern." She brought up psychological evaluation data showing stress response curves and decision-making patterns under pressure. Human women in command positions show enhanced protective responses when defending others. Your cortisol levels actually stabilize under combat stress when you're fighting to protect people you care about. You become calmer, more focused, and more tactically creative. Grace smiled grimly. "Maya's describing what we call the mama bear effect. Threaten our cubs and we become more dangerous, not less." Rebecca studied all the data one final time, then made her decision. "How long to prepare an expeditionary force?" "Earth defense. Force can have 12 ships ready for interstellar deployment within 72 hours, Grace reported. "Each ship can carry a full battalion of troops plus support personnel. We're talking about roughly 15,000 people total." Maya looked, worried. "Admiral, according to the alien transmissions, the Galactic Council has millions of ships and billions of soldiers. 15,000 humans seems like nothing." Rebecca turned back to the images of the fleeing aliens, thinking about persistence, hunting, and the long chase that always ended with humans standing over their exhausted prey. "Maya, you just spent an hour explaining that humans are different. We don't win by having more soldiers. We win by being too stubborn to quit and too dangerous to ignore." She activated the fleet communication system. "Besides, sometimes a small force of specialists can accomplish what a large army cannot." The orders went out within the hour. Earth's first interstellar military expedition would launch in 3 days, carrying humanity's finest soldiers to a war that was already lost. But Rebecca Stone smiled as she watched the preparation reports come in, because she knew something the galaxy was about to learn. Humans had never met a fight they wouldn't take, and they had never met an enemy they couldn't eventually break. The galaxy was calling for help, and the Deathworlders were finally answering. The Deep Space Monitoring Station orbited Earth like a silent guardian, its massive dish antennas always listening to the void between stars. Captain Lisa Martinez stood before the main control panel, watching the endless stream of cosmic background, radiation that painted patterns across her screens. She had been running this station for 3 years now, and most days brought nothing but the usual stellar noise and the occasional signal from human colonies on nearby worlds. But today was different. Dr. Amy Chen rushed into the control room, her face pale with excitement and worry. She carried a datapad that trembled slightly in her hands. Amy was the best language expert Earth had ever produced, able to decode alien transmissions that others couldn't even recognize as communication. She stopped beside Lisa and pointed at the screen where strange symbols danced in patterns that seemed almost musical. "Lisa, you need to see this," Amy said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've been receiving this signal for the past 6 hours. It's not natural cosmic noise. This is artificial. This is a message." Lisa felt her heart skip. In all of human history, they had never received a confirmed alien transmission. Earth had been reaching out to the stars for centuries, but the universe had remained stubbornly silent. Now, as humanity had just developed faster-than-light communication technology, the silence was finally broken. "Are you sure it's alien?" Lisa asked, though she could already see the impossible complexity of the signal patterns. Amy nodded quickly. "It's being broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously, using mathematical principles that are universal, but arranged in ways no human would think to use. But that's not the most important part." She touched her datapad, and the main screen changed to show a crude translation. "I've managed to decode about 30% of it. Lisa, this is a distress call." The words on the screen made Lisa's blood run cold. Even with the broken translation, the message was clear enough. Someone out there was dying. Entire worlds were being destroyed by something the aliens called void devourers. The transmission spoke of billions of lives lost and civilizations that had stood for millions of years being swept away like dust. Keep working on the translation, Lisa said, reaching for the communication panel. I need to contact Earth Command, immediately. Within hours, the small monitoring station became the center of frantic activity. Ships arrived from Earth carrying scientists, military officials, and government representatives. Commander Kate Sullivan was among the first to arrive, her military transport ship docking with practiced efficiency. Kate was known throughout the Earth Defense Force as someone who could analyze any tactical situation and find solutions that others missed. Kate found Lisa and Amy in the main briefing room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the alien transmission from every possible angle. The translation had improved significantly, and the full horror of the situation was becoming clear. "Show me what we know," Kate said without ceremony. Amy activated the main display, and suddenly the room filled with three-dimensional images, pulled from the alien transmission. Beautiful beings with pointed ears and skin that seemed to glow with inner light fled from dark shapes that moved like living shadows. Cities that looked like they were made of crystal and light were being consumed by writhing darkness that left nothing behind. "These are the Etherians," Amy explained, pointing to the fleeing elf-like beings. "They seem to be one of the main species sending this distress call, but there are others. I've identified at least 12 different alien languages in this transmission. They're calling themselves the Galactic Council." Kate studied the images with the eye of a professional soldier. The alien cities were clearly advanced beyond anything humans had built, but they were being destroyed with terrifying efficiency. "What exactly are these void devourers?" Amy shook her head. "The translation is still rough, but they seem to be some kind of ancient evil that feeds on life itself. They consume entire planets, leaving dead rocks behind. The Galactic Council has been fighting them for months, but their conventional military forces are no match for these things." Lisa brought up a star map showing the signal's origin points. "The distress call is being broadcast from 17 different star systems. But Kate, look at this pattern. The attacks aren't random. These void devourers are moving in a specific direction, consuming everything in their path." Kate studied the map and felt a chill run down her spine. "They're heading toward the galactic center. If they're consuming everything in their path..." She paused, running quick calculations in her head. "At this rate, they'll have destroyed thousands of civilizations within a year." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what they were seeing. Somewhere out in the galaxy, an ancient evil was devouring entire worlds, and the established civilizations were helpless to stop it. Amy broke the silence. "There's something else. The transmission includes technical specifications for faster-than-light travel and communication. They're sharing their most advanced technology freely, hoping that someone, anyone, might be able to help them." Lisa looked at the images of the beautiful Etherian women and children fleeing from the consuming darkness. Their faces showed the same emotions she recognized in humans: fear, determination, and desperate hope. These weren't just alien signals and data points. These were people, and they were dying. "We have to do something," Lisa said quietly. Kate nodded slowly. "The question is, what can we do? Earth has exactly 12 faster-than-light capable ships, and our military technology is based on projectile weapons and nuclear explosives. These aliens have energy weapons and technology we can barely understand, and they're losing." Amy looked between her two friends, seeing the same thought reflected in their eyes. "Maybe that's exactly why we need to try. Maybe being primitive is an advantage when you're fighting something that feeds on advanced civilizations." Outside the station, Earth hung in space like a blue and green jewel, beautiful and peaceful. But its inhabitants were no longer alone. In the universe, and the galaxy was calling for help. The question now was whether the people of the small, violent world could become the heroes that the dying civilizations needed.